As our world changes, we'll keep you up to date with the latest information. News Talk KVNU 102 FM, 610 AM.
KVNU News Time is 5:05. I'm Bill Walter with this news update brought to you by Mount Logan Laundry. Work is underway on a project at Logan Regional Hospital continuing until early 2025. That will include construction of a 110,000 square foot, four-story tower on the northeast corner of the campus, and the demolition of two existing towers to create a new front entrance to the hospital. Emilio Rodriguez is the hospital's communication director.
So the first floor is going to house our cafe, our kitchen, our education center, some cardiology services, and imaging services. And then on the second floor, it'll be our intensive care unit, our behavioral health unit that we just talked about, and our transitional care unit. And then on the third floor will be our medical, surgical, and pediatric nursing units. And then on the fourth floor, we're looking to create some space for some business offices.
Rodriguez said a primary objective from the start has been to create a more visible entrance and drop-off zone into hospital services.
The way our hospital is set up right now, it's difficult to see the front entrance, and so we've heard the community and our patients, and so we're making sure we address that issue with our new, when we knock down the towers, we're going to build this really beautiful, nice new main entrance that will be easier to access for our patients, and it'll bring a lot of, I think it'll bring really nice look to the hospital.
He said the new project allows for relocation of inpatient services to one area of the campus. During construction, patients are encouraged to enter the hospital from 400 East and park close to the current main entrance or to access the South Budge Clinic entrance. KVNU News Time is 5:07. KVNU weather for tonight, mostly clear skies is our forecast. Overnight low tonight in the mid-50s, and then sunny, hot mid-90s tomorrow. Southwest winds gusting up to around 20 miles an hour in the afternoon. Wednesday, partly cloudy and around 90 degrees. It's been to 90 this afternoon. It's 89 right now at KVNU. They have the items you're looking for at Napa Auto Parts, the parts you need, use, and rely on every day, plus hard-to-find items you need like Dello 15-weight 40 oil or Rotella 15-weight 40 oil in stock when you need it at your 5 locally owned Preston to Providence Napa Auto Parts stores.
Make laundry a snap with the large load washers and dryers at Mount Logan Laundry. Rather than 8 to 10 loads at home, get the job done in 1 or 2 with their 55 or 80-pound washers and 80-pound dryers that are perfect for sleeping bags, comforters, and other big items. Mount Logan Laundry has free Wi-Fi and drop-off service, plus they're open until midnight. Mount Logan Laundry really is the cleanest spot in town. Find them at 5th East and 9th North in Logan or in Brigham City on the corner of 1st East and 7th South.
KVNU News Time is 5:08. Cache County Executive David Zook presented the findings of his Housing Crisis Task Force on Thursday. Zook confessed prior to the noontime presentation that he had hoped they would find a magic bullet. Instead, the task force found that everyone is part of the problem, according to Paul Davis, a business outreach special projects coordinator for Bragg. Davis said we need to change the minds of the people of Cache Valley about growth. Zook formed the 50-member housing task force in March to tackle serious obstacles to affordable housing in Cache County. Its members included stakeholders with diverse backgrounds in economic development and planning, real estate, state, county, and city government, and education. The task force also includes church leaders, private citizens, industry leaders, and representatives of local nonprofit groups. The task force was led by co-chairs John Drew, the former mayor of Providence, Sean Milne, Cache County's economic development director, and Karina Brown, a county policy analyst. Looking at projected population growth, task force members found that 85% of the growth from now until 2060 will be the result of natural increase, meaning that Cache Valley residents will banish their children and grandchildren to live somewhere else unless the housing crisis is addressed. Now, Zook said we have an extreme shortage of available homes across most socioeconomic levels. Most residents here could not afford to purchase the home they live in, given today's market prices and household income. And a 10-year-old boy was transported to the hospital via life flight after police said a car struck him while riding his bike in Layton. Police said the crash happened just after 7 o'clock Sunday evening. A pizza delivery driver was reportedly traveling, and when the child biked into the road and was struck, the child was transported to Primary Children's Hospital with serious injuries. KVNU News Time is 5:10. For more details on these and other stories, visit CashValleyDaily.com.
Covering Utah State sports like no one else. News Talk KVNU, 102 FM, 610 AM.
Hi, this is Eric Franson, Vice President of Cache Valley Media Group. We love supporting local business and are proud to support the Center Street Market in downtown Logan every Wednesday during the summer. Center Street Market will be open from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. every Wednesday, and all of the merchants will be local businesses from right here in Cache Valley. Cache Valley Media Group invites everyone to the Center Street Market in downtown Logan.
Meet me downtown. Meet me in downtown Logan.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. Hour 2 of today's show. It is Monday, June 27th. Tomorrow, Election Day. And a reminder, if you have not postmarked your ballot, don't drop it off in person at a drop box, which they're located at city office buildings throughout the valley, throughout the state. Not hard to find. They don't close. They're bolted to the ground. Big metal boxes that say drop box and ballot. You can't miss them. Last resort, of course, you can take it to the clerk's office in person tomorrow. There's also a drop box behind that county admin building there on 2nd North and Main Street. So no excuse to not get your ballot in. Just a warning, do not postmark your ballot. Don't drop it in the mail now. It's too late to mail that ballot in. All right, all this playing out tomorrow. Polls close around 8 p.m. We might know the results of some races, at least in these many primaries here in northern Utah, by 9 p.m., maybe. Possibly. Either way, we've done our best to bring you each and every candidate here on the show, and we've been reaching out to candidates over the last 7-8 days, asking them to make their best elevator pitch to undecided voters. A lot of the polling we're seeing shows that, especially in the United States Senate race, there is a very uncharacteristic for Utah high number of undecided voters in these races, which does imply people will also be sitting on their ballots till the last minute. So we've been reaching out to the candidates to help inform your vote, if possible. Joining us here in a candidate spotlight-style time here on the show, candidate for United States Senate in this Republican primary, Ally Isom. And Ally, appreciate taking some time for KVNU today. How goes it?
Thanks, Jason. It's my pleasure, and thank you for including me today. You know, we're enthusiastic. We're working hard. We're pushing right up to the very end. We're making hundreds of calls to Republican voters statewide. As you mentioned, there are a number of undecideds in this race, a high number, unusually high number. So we want to be the viable conservative alternative for them. We want them to know they have a good choice this year on the ballot.
This is, a primary in general this is rare in Utah. It doesn't often happen. Here in northern Utah, of course, we have not only this United States Senate primary, we have a congressional primary, we have county council primaries, a state house primary, and I'm hoping for big turnout. Ally, I know, through press statements and events and more, I've heard that, your campaign is seeing a lot of excitement out there. Are you seeing that, that voters have a top 3 in their issues list?
Absolutely, we are. And it's because I've walked in more than 125 local Utah communities that I feel like I have a good sense of what's top of mind and in the hearts of everyday Utahns. And they're really coalescing around the economy, first and foremost. They're concerned about inflation. They're concerned about our national debt. and what this looks like in the next few years for their families. I very much support kitchen table economics in the way we examine public policy and national policy. They're also talking about water and about energy. And, they'd like us, they want Washington, D.C. to defend the water that we have and to coalesce as a delegation around priorities. Right now, you have different congressmen working on different priorities. And if we don't get on the same page, we could have North versus South and East versus West in some of the ways we talk about Utah's water. And when it comes to energy, it's not just energy independence, which of course will help us with inflation, but it's also energy leadership, global energy leadership, to restore America's strength when it comes to our natural resources, because we know a strong nation is a safe nation.
This is, bubbled up to be. Every election cycle seems to have this. There's that issue that's not really on the agenda at first, and then it bubbles up to be one of the top. Energy has been one of those as gas prices have risen. Inflation is another. Also, throughout your campaign, I know you've talked a little bit about the need to look at, overall in the nation, of course, but here in Utah, the jobs that are bringing in, the quality of jobs and things like that. You'll be one voice of many in the United States Senate. And a question that I've asked of every candidate in these federal races, because we hear it all the time, Ally, and I'm curious if you agree. The statement usually goes, Congress is broken. Is that something you agree with?
Absolutely. Congress isn't doing their job. That's why we have an executive that steps in with executive orders. Every time we have a new president, their executive orders are a response to the last guy's executive orders. It creates these wild swings and tremendous uncertainty for these local communities. Also, that they haven't passed a budget for years and years and years. Mike Lee has never seen a budget in his entire time in service. It's frustrating to me. The Tea Party rode in with big promises of reform, and we have yet to see a balanced budget amendment. We have debt that's out of control even more than ever. It's a symptom of Congress not doing its job. And we've got to, you can't keep sending the same voices to Washington, D.C. and expecting a different outcome. It's time to send a different kind of leadership, I think. That's what we believe.
You can find the Ally Isom for Senate campaign a couple of different ways. AllyForUtah.com, and that's spelled out, F-O-R, AllyForUtah.com, spelled A-L-L-Y. I've linked to that on our Facebook page there, and you can see, why she's running, some of the issues that will be top priorities for her, and we'll talk about those in a second. And Ally, I just wanted to highlight this because it signs that this has been a very healthy and an aggressive campaign that is. I love primaries. Primaries keep incumbents on their toes. Primaries they remind voters that there is an election afoot, and so I'm a big fan. But proof, I guess, that this primary has made a mark and has had some influence already. You were able to exact a response from the incumbent in this race, Senator Lee, just today. This was over. Representative Phil Lyman, he's been in the news a lot, and he was out with some conspiracy theories again today about election. The lieutenant governor went after him, I saw on Twitter, and you were able to actually pressure your opponent into responding on this. How does that feel? A lot of times in these races, incumbents just ignore their challengers. Not the case this go-round. Thoughts on that?
Well, it depends on the day whether or not Senator Lee engages, to be honest. There are days when he shows up and there are days he doesn't. We were disappointed when we had the broadcast debate with the Utah Debate Commission, and there was a lovely empty podium there. And I find that alarming and troubling because I think the senator should be accountable. He didn't face a Republican challenger last time, and this was his opportunity to step up and to account for his record to the state of Utah. When he has time to write 6 books but can only get 4 bills across the finish line, something's out of balance for the state. And I believe we need somebody who shows up for Utah and steps up. I'm so frustrated that I've sat in briefing after briefing in county commission offices and walked with mayors in their community, and I hear time and time again how long it's been since they've seen, if they've ever seen, Senator Lee in their community, and how he just tells them straight out he doesn't do local issues or he can't help them. During the pandemic, we had Utah businesses who he wouldn't help. We have conservation districts for water that tell me they're prioritized last because they can't get a letter of support from him. There are hundreds of letters for projects for federal needs that our state has that have 5 signatures on them from our delegation, and one of them is not Senator Lee. And I think a primary is an important time for him to account for that record. I'm grateful when he does engage. I think it's good for the system. It's good for the outcomes. It's good for the people of Utah. In terms of today, I just see Phil Lyman's efforts as a stunt, as an effort to discredit or cast shade on the Utah elections. But I also have another opponent who called on the senator to decry what's happened, and I see that as a political stunt. I think Utahns overall, they want straight talk. They want straight shooting. They want us to just talk about the things that matter and focus on their needs. And things like disparaging the elections process, that's just a distraction from accountability for the things that matter most to Utah right now.
This was, sometimes you watch the news, Ally, or for those of us here part of the news, and sometimes it's like it's all stunts, political stunts. So I appreciate that criticism very much.
It's exhausting.
Yes,
absolutely exhausting, isn't it?
Perfect way to describe it. It is exhausting, and it does sometimes lead to some cynicism as well. And Ally, I didn't know this about you. This was something I learned just today about you. But you got your start in politics way back at BYU through the BYU Poli-Sci program there, and it involved Governor Gary Herbert. This was a story I'd never heard before.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I was pregnant with my second baby. I had recently graduated from BYU, and a former professor recommended to Gary Herbert, who was entertaining a run for Congress at that time. People forget he was briefly in the race for Congress, and
sure.
My professor sent a very pregnant Ally Isom over to meet with Gary Herbert to help him on his congressional race. He stayed in that race for a few months and then withdrew, and then decided to run for his commission seat again. So I helped manage his county commission campaign, and that was nearly 30 years ago, 28 years ago. So I've had a long-term relationship with the Herberts. They're dear friends.
That's a very nice story, and one I'd never heard before. And you said you were quoted in the Deseret News story about all this, saying that this is, why you're here today. You said that time at BYU, those types of experiences, but also learning what you learned about civics and the political system at BYU, you said it ingrained in you a sense of civic responsibility. What do you think that means today? For everyone out there listening right now, obviously civic responsibility would be voting. Is there more than that we should all be doing?
Yes, absolutely. I think for many people in our country, January 6th was a defining day. And we often, I think too often, focus on the rioters and those who broke into the Capitol that day. And I will in no way condone that violence that occurred. The People's House was violated. People died that day. A process was disrupted. I cannot sanction that in any way. But on the square that day, 95% of the people did not resort to violence. And they were there because they felt unseen and unheard. And those are themes I hear across the political spectrum and across the state. Too often people are feeling unseen and unheard. We're so disconnected. The pandemic exacerbated it. And we're feeling, disconnected from our community, disconnected from our systems and our government. And on January 6th, I just thought, how did we get to this place? I want my country back, and I want my party back. And good people have to get off the sidelines. And I feel strongly that our constitutional republic is fraying at the seams because people have stopped working together to get things done. And we can no longer abdicate it to the elites to make sure things happen. I think it is up to everyday people, everyday Americans who have real lived experiences with the economic challenges we have, with the realities of raising families, with the realities of navigating our communities. It's time for people to step up and serve and not assume somebody else is going to clean up the mess or get things done or make it right. We all have a duty. And my time at BYU instilled in me a love for those who were the framers of our Constitution, for the tremendous history of philosophical thought and the intentionality with which our country was crafted. The constitutional framework we have has endured for so long, and historically so, because it's based in such truth, things I highly regard as valid and wise. And because we have such a sound framework, it is provided for these amendments to address change over time, but it has endured because it's founded on real principles of limited government and defined division of powers among the branches of government. So I have such a love for my country and the Constitution because of my time at BYU, but it has instilled in me, and I hope in so many others, a desire to serve and give back.
Ally, a pleasure to be able to talk to you about these things. And for listeners, if you're undecided, if you're sitting on your ballot, again, don't postmark it today. Don't drop it in the mail. It's too late for that. But drop it off in person at a drop box located at city office buildings throughout the state. Easy to find, open 24/7. One behind the county admin building here in Cache Valley. You can also take it in person if you prefer and hand it to a human being, actually, tomorrow at the Cache County Clerk's office. You can also register to vote in person with proper ID at the clerk's office tomorrow up until 8 p.m. and when polls close. Information on how to do all of that at vote.utah.gov. But again, do not mail your ballot. Don't drop it in the mailbox today. It is too late for that. Make sure you get it in person at a drop box or to the clerk's office tomorrow. And Ally, wrapping things up here, I hinted that we'd ask this at the very end. It's a fun thing we've been doing with all the candidates. If you are speaking to an undecided voter, someone who they plan to turn their ballot in, they haven't really made up their mind about the candidates in this United States Senate Republican primary, what is your best 30 seconds, 1 minute elevator pitch to that undecided voter?
My call for them is to step up and participate, to reject the fear and the anger that are distractions to keep them from doing their duty, and to reclaim our country, that this nation values freedom and strength. I believe in Reagan's shining city, a problem-solving nation, one that passes a balanced budget amendment, and a nation that honors our ability to care for our own here in Utah, for our own people, for our own land, a nation that believes in individual freedom and that government shouldn't solve all our problems. Those are the values of the Republican Party, and I urge people to reclaim them, that we can't figure out where we're going when we're so angry about where we are, that it's time for us to claim a vision of balanced government, a new kind of leadership that is both effective and in touch with everyday Utahns. And I've made a pledge to serve 2 full terms, running full throttle, 2 full terms dedicated to Utah's principles, and two full terms fighting for the right things for the future of Utah. And I'd be honored to have their consideration, and I'm asking for their vote.
Ally, thanks so much for your time today. And for listeners out there, if you are undecided, I hope that helped. Again, turn your ballot in person tomorrow at the clerk's office or at a drop box between now and 8 p.m. tomorrow. Do not drop it in the mail. It is too late for that. That was 5 p.m. today, the cutoff for that. But plenty of time to vote, to register to vote in person at the clerk's office tomorrow. No excuse for anyone not to cast a ballot in this race and all the other primaries playing out throughout northern Utah. Our guest again has been Ally Isom, a United States Senate candidate in this Republican primary playing out tomorrow. And we'll have maybe some results, at least a hint at how this turned out by 9-10 p.m. tomorrow. The website again, Ally for Utah, that is ALLY, allyforutah.com. You can also find Ally Isom's campaign on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, and more. And Ally, one more time, a pleasure to have you join us here on the show yet again and to get a chance to interact with you through this campaign. And we'll see how things go tomorrow.
Well, thank you. I'm looking forward to it, and I'm so grateful for the time you take and the encouragement that you make in our community to engage folks in voting. So thank you for the time on the air today.
Oh, it's our pleasure, and thank you for joining us. And again, for listeners, allyforutah.com, ALLY, allyforutah.com. I've linked to that on our Facebook page as well, and we'll be back with more right after this.
This radio station is proud to provide a patriotic soundtrack to this year's fireworks shows. From Logan's Willow Park, July 2nd. From your own backyard celebrations, July 3rd. And Lewiston and Hiram on July 4th. Each evening at 10, tune into this radio station for patriotic music and messages as we celebrate the United States of America. Special thanks to these businesses for sponsoring this year's soundtrack. Schreiber Foods, celebrating 50 years of providing job security and financial stability for Cache Valley families. DD Auto and Salvage, get paid top dollar for your junker autos and scrap metal. Cook and Solder Foot and Ankle. Foot injury? Doctors Greg Cook and Travis Solder can help. Call 752-9011. McDonald's in Box Elder and Cache County are hiring. Start your future at McDonald's. Let us join together to salute the red, white, and blue and cheer the hopes and dreams that is America. Tune in to this radio station July 2nd, 3rd, and 4th at 10 p.m.
When a mom and daughter swap bodies, they have just one day to make things right. Coming this summer season to Lyric Rep, see Disney's Freaky Friday, a heartfelt, comedic, and unexpectedly emotional delivery of an American classic. By spending a day in each other's shoes, Catherine and Ellie come to appreciate each other's struggles, learn self-acceptance, and realize the immeasurable love and respect that bond a mother and daughter. Purchase your tickets to Freaky Friday at lyricrep.org. That's lyricrep.org.
Hey everybody, John Weiss again with Heritage Ram. We sure love our trucks in northern Utah, and right now you can get behind the wheel of one of the most awarded, longest-lasting pickup brands on the road during the Make the Switch event. Get 0% APR for 60 months, OAC on select new Ram trucks. You are not going to find a better deal. Heritage Ram in Brigham City, Tremont, and Logan, your hometown dealer with the biggest deals.
Thanks again to Ally Isom, United States Senate candidate in this Republican primary, allyforutah.com. And in the interest of fairness, since it is the day before Election Day, on the other side of the news, you'll hear from Ally's opponent, Becky Edwards. We actually spoke with her last week, but some highlights from our conversation with her. I did reach out to the Lee campaign to see if they wanted to put in one last-minute elevator pitch to voters. Haven't heard back from them yet, but should I hear from them by 5:50, we'll have time to do that. And again, Ally Isom, her website, allyforutah.com, ALLY. On the other side of the news, one of your other choices in this primary, if you're an undecided voter, United States Senate candidate, former state lawmaker Becky Edwards. But first, a look at the news with KVNU's Bill Walter.
Thank you, Jason. KVNU News Time is 5:33. Throngs of tourists have gleefully returned to watch geysers erupt and bison cross the roads at Yellowstone National Park as it partially reopened following destructive floods. Park managers raised the gates this past Wednesday at 3 of Yellowstone's 5 entrances for the first time since June 13th. That day, 10,000 visitors were ordered out after rivers across northern Wyoming and southern Montana surged over their banks following a torrent of rainfall that accelerated the spring snowmelt. The cost and scope of the damage is still being assessed. Mitt Romney is not up for re-election this year, but his name is surfacing in Republican primaries throughout the nation. Candidates are using the label Mitt Romney Republican to frame opponents as insufficiently conservative and enemies of the Trump-era GOP. Candidates have employed the concept in attack ads and talking points in Michigan, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. In Romney's home state of Utah, Republican challengers taking on incumbent congressmen are using the attack, even though Romney won overwhelmingly only 4 years ago. The fact that Romney remains potent attack fodder reflects his singular position in politics and ongoing divisions within the Republican Party. KVNU News Time is 5:34.
My name is Gloria Nadal, and I chose Roof Rescue. They exceeded my expectations because they were able to follow through with the insurance company, establish a rapport, and ultimately the insurance company took responsibility and paid for my roof to be replaced. The products that they used were top-notch. My roof is beautiful. I would recommend them over and over again. My name is Gloria Nadal, and I encourage you to choose Roof Rescue.
Planned Parenthood Association of Utah and the ACLU of Utah filed a lawsuit seeking to block Utah's new law banning all elective abortions. The lawsuit, filed Saturday in Salt Lake City's 3rd District Court, argues that Utah's law is unconstitutional and seeks a restraining order to block it from being enforced. The Utah legislature passed a law in 2020 banning all elective abortions in the state, with exceptions for rape and incest, the health or safety of the mother, or fetal viability. The law was put on hold pending the U.S. Supreme Court ruling. The lawsuit states that Utahns harmed by this extreme abortion ban will include women who seek care just days or weeks after discovering a missed period, those who are already struggling to pull their children out of poverty, finish school, escape an abusive partner, or overcome addiction. Sexual assault survivors who, as is common, do not report their assault to law enforcement, and families grieving fetal diagnoses that they know they are ill-equipped to cope with. Planned Parenthood said in the lawsuit it was forced to cancel a dozen appointments on Friday for abortions as a result of the trigger law. It had more than 55 scheduled abortion procedures next week, which were halted by the new law. KVNU weather for tonight, mostly clear skies is our forecast, and the overnight low tonight down into the mid-50s. And then tomorrow, very hot day, mid-90s with southwest winds 10 to 20 miles per hour. It's been to 90, and right now we have 90 degrees at KVNU. KVNU weather brought to you by U&I Furniture. Nothing better than a good night's sleep and a comfy chair. U&I can help with both those things. Always a better buy at U&I, 28 West, 1st North, downtown Logan. For more details on these and other stories, visit CashValleyDaily.com.
2 years ago, when I first ran as a candidate, I made the simple promise to restore your conservative voice in the Utah State Legislature. I voted to reduce your taxes by $300 million. I sponsored legislation to protect your private property. I voted to reinstate freedom of speech on college campuses, and I voted to protect girls' sports from biological males. I'm proud to be endorsed by U.S. Senator Mike Lee. This is Representative Mike Peterson, and I sponsor this message.
Your landscape should be a place to relax, entertain, and spend family time. Canyon Landscaping designs and installs livable landscapes that define space in new or existing yards. Hardscapes with retaining walls, paver and stone patios, and walkways each create privacy, interest, and purpose, plus fire pits and sitting walls to add value to any yard. Go to canyonlandscaping.com for more details, then call to schedule your free consultation. Call 752-3838 or go to canyonlandscaping.com. Canyon Landscaping. Look for the leaf.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. Election day tomorrow. By tomorrow evening, we should have, fingers crossed, have an idea of the winner of the Republican primaries in the United States Senate race. You heard from Ally Isom there at the start of the hour. You'll hear from Becky Edwards here in just a second, making their elevator pitches to undecided voters who have yet to drop off their ballots. We'll probably know the results of the 2 Cache County Council, Northeast and Southeast District Republican primaries, and we'll likely know the winner of the Utah House 3 race between Representative Mike Peterson and former Representative Val Potter. Fingers crossed we'll know those by 9-10 p.m. tomorrow night. Maybe not. Maybe the races are close enough that we have to wait until certification day. I hope not. General election begins on Wednesday, and in at least the United States Senate race, it is going to be a fiery race, to say the least, with independent Evan McMullin in that race against Republican nominee who will be decided tomorrow. Ballots have been returned. Turnout is, so far, some of the numbers we've seen from county clerks around the state, turnout is meh. So if you're sitting on your ballot out there, a couple of quick things. One, at this time, it is too late to postmark your ballot. If you have not returned your ballot yet, do not drop it in the mail. Drop it off in person at a drop box throughout the valley sometime this evening or tomorrow. They're located at city offices all throughout Utah. Any city office building has a permanently installed drop box location for, in some cases, 10 years now. So they're easy to find, easy to get to. They do not close. You can drop them off at 1 in the morning if you want to. Although if you're filling out your ballot at 1 in the morning, we should talk. If you want to drop it off in person, actually hand it to another person, you can do so tomorrow up until 8 p.m. at the Cache County Clerk's Office or your respective clerk's office, wherever you're listening from. It's important that everyone that's a registered Republican weigh in. Also, a reminder, if you are not registered, you can register in person tomorrow at the clerk's office as well. Bring proper ID. Voter ID is required here in Utah. And you can see what qualifies as ID to register to vote at vote.utah.gov. And then show up in person. You can register and cast a ballot at the same time. It will be a provisional ballot, meaning your vote will be counted when they get to all the ones that have been sent in already, but it will count in this election. But do not drop your ballot in the mail today at this time. It is too late, and it will not count. So drop it off in person at a drop box or in person at the county clerk's office tomorrow up until 8 p.m., and then we'll see if we have the results in by 8 or 9 or 9 or 10 tomorrow night. A lot of contested races here in northern Utah, so it's going to be exciting to watch, to say the least. So. Kicking off the hour, you heard Ally Isom, the United States Senate candidate, making her elevator pitch to undecided voters. We've seen in recent polls that in this United States Senate race, it's pretty neck and neck between Becky Edwards and Mike Lee, and with Ally Isom coming in third in most polls. But there are also 20, depending on which poll you look at, 20 to 25% undecided voters who, as of last week at least, hadn't made up their mind when the poll was released. So candidates are aggressively reaching out to these undecided voters, both to get them to vote, make sure their vote is counted as a registered Republican, or to get them to vote for them. Of course, that's what candidates do. So you heard Ally Isom's elevator pitch there. We did reach out to Lee's campaign as well and didn't hear back from them in time for today's show. But there is an interview with Senator Mike Lee on the books, and I've linked to that on our Facebook page for those who want to hear what he had to say about why you should consider a vote for him. You heard Ally Isom's pitch there at the start of the hour, and last week we had a chance to speak with United States Senate candidate Becky Edwards, making her elevator pitch to voters. Here's a bit of that discussion.
This is the final push. It is the get out the vote, helping people understand just how important this race is to the state of Utah and, quite honestly, to the country. This would be a remarkable opportunity for us to bring better leadership on behalf of the people of Utah. Sure.
And this is, I appreciate, one thing I really appreciate about your campaign, Becky, is that you've included in that the fact that, you know, elections and candidates are also about reminding people, not only, of course, as a candidate, you're selling yourself to voters. You're trying to convince them to cast a vote for you, but also reminding people there's an election going on, right? You're trying to get people to actually play a part in this is an important part of it, right?
It absolutely is. We have had a huge part of our campaign has been about civic engagement from the very, very beginning, because of course we want people's support. Of course, I believe I'm the best candidate for Utah, for the U.S. Senate. But beyond that, I really, really want people to understand that their voices matter, how critical this race is. This race is too important for your ballot to be sitting, on your cupboard in your kitchen. Make sure that you place that ballot, that you turn it in, that you find your ballot, and you fill it out, and then you return it. This is the first time we as Republicans have had a say in this seat for 12 years.
Yes.
It's time. It's time for us to stand up, and Utah deserves better. Congress is broken, and it's time for us to make a change.
This is something, Becky, I know that as a state lawmaker, you also talked about a lot. Low voter turnout, especially, it's gotten better over the last few years, but at the time you served in the state legislature, things weren't looking so great. But this, again, is an opportunity to get people excited. As you've campaigned, have you noticed, same question I asked one of our county council candidates in hour one, are you noticing that voters have their own priorities list? Are there things that are coming up more and more often than others?
I think when I've been around the state for a little over a year now with this campaign, I'm hearing a lot of the same issues. People are talking about, of course, water. They're talking about making sure their voices are heard. They're talking about growth, energy independence, some of these, and a lot of voices talking about the fiscal responsibility that we're not seeing in Congress right now. Above all of that is a theme of people feeling underrepresented, and the fact that we have an opportunity right now to make some history and unite together as a state to bring a candidate to the U.S. Senate that feels like Utah, represents Utah, and in every way possible, I am Utah's candidate. And I think that is something that is really playing out with the support we have from across the state, and what is really a movement of people anxious to come together with this shared vision of things that can be better.
Website again for Becky Edwards and her campaign, beckyforutah.com. And Becky, appreciate taking the time for us. And now, if you can, leave us with your 30-second elevator pitch to voters, those who haven't sent the ballot in yet. Why you? Oh, no, we lost Becky before the pitch.
No,
I'm sorry.
I'm still here.
I thought I'd lost you.
30-second pitch. I'm still here, and I'm ready to give you my 30 seconds
Okay, I'm
here.
sorry. That was my fault. Yes, your 30-second pitch to potential voters who haven't mailed it in yet.
Yeah. What I want Utah voters to understand is I have a deep history in this state. I come from generations of Utahns who have made their home here and are deeply committed to the people and the landscape and the future of this state. I am the very same way. I am in every way possible Utah's candidate. I have a track record of working on behalf of the people of Utah, and in a way that makes people feel proud. I exemplify the principles and values that are so embedded in our communities and counties and towns across this state. We know that it is time for a change. Please join us. Please join what we affectionately call Team Becky. This is a movement across the state, and together we can bring more productive, proactive, and inclusive leadership to the U.S. Senate in a way that will help all Utahns and Americans as well. Time for us to come together and make some history here. Please find your ballot, turn it in, and this election is too important to sit this out. We need your voice. We need your support. And even if you're in a place, if you're trying to decide about all the races, at the very least, vote in this U.S. Senate race. We need your voice. Your voice matters. Let's do this together. Let's bring better leadership to the state of Utah.
Again, Becky Edwards for United States Senate, former Republican state lawmaker, current Republican candidate in this primary playing out as we speak. BeckyForUtah.com, again, her website. You can also find the campaign on Facebook. Becky, it's a pleasure to have you join us here on the show. And for listeners, a reminder, if you have not postmarked your ballot yet, it is too late to do that. Not too late to vote, too late to drop it in the mail. If you haven't mailed your ballot yet, do not drop it in the mail. Drop it off in person, either at a Dropbox location. They're at city office buildings throughout the state. They're easy to find and they don't close. Or drop it off in person tomorrow at the Cache County Clerk's office or your respective clerk's office, wherever you're listening from. As Becky said, rare opportunity of these primaries, multiple primaries in a Utah State House race here in northern Utah, Cache County Council seat primaries, and, of course, the one attracting all the attention, this United States Senate race primary. I forget to mention it every time. There also is a primary in the 1st Congressional District race as well. We've spoken with those candidates over the years. I've linked to our interviews with all candidates on our Facebook page. If you are undecided or haven't filled your ballot out yet and want to hear what the candidates in whatever race you're eyeing up the most have been saying, links on our Facebook page. Thanks again to Becky Edwards, BeckyForUtah.com, the website, for her time making an elevator pitch to last-minute undecided voters who will be dropping off their ballots, hopefully at a drop box or at the county clerk's office tomorrow on Election Day. BeckyForUtah.com, again, her website, and we'll be back with more of KVNU's For the People right after this.
You want to feel important.
You want to be part of something bigger, something that matters and can help change things.
You want to feel like you belong.
We know. We felt that way too. And that's why we did something about it.
We aren't just Army National Guard soldiers. We are normal people just like you.
But our part-time service in the Army National Guard means we get to be more.
When our communities are in need, we get the chance to stand up and do something about it.
We get to serve in our own region and help the people we call neighbors.
From the mountains of Colorado, Wyoming, Montana, Idaho, and Utah.
The deserts of Arizona and Nevada. The Pacific coasts of Washington, Oregon, and California.
To the wilderness of Alaska and islands of Hawaii and Guam.
We are here for our hometowns.
And together, we can make a difference.
Take on your legacy. Visit NationalGuard.com to find out more.
Sponsored by the Utah Army National Guard. Aired by the Utah Broadcasters Association and this station.
My name is Andrew Badger, and I am running for Utah's 1st Congressional District because I believe it's time Republicans stop playing defense and go on the offense. Utah needs representatives who are going to fight for America first, not cave to the D.C. establishment like Mitt Romney and Blake Moore. In office, I will fight to secure our elections, end COVID mandates, and ensure parents, not the government, are responsible for their children's education. My name is Andrew Badger, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Andrew Badger for Congress.
Hi, this is Eric Franson, Vice President of Cache Valley Media Group. We love supporting local business and are proud to support the Center Street Market in downtown Logan every Wednesday during the summer. Center Street Market will be open from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. every Wednesday, and all of the merchants will be local businesses from right here in Cache Valley. Cache Valley Media Group invites everyone to the Center Street Market in downtown Logan.
Meet me downtown. Meet me in downtown Logan.
Hi, this is Gordon Deal. Tuesday on This Morning, America's First News. Pro-life groups have a big strategy decision to make in the wake of the Roe decision. How far do they press at the state level? Also, the Fed is on an aggressive path to slow spiking inflation, a path that could raise the odds for a recession. Hear what experts are saying at this point. And with home prices high, are we becoming a nation of renters? Tuesday on This Morning, America's First News. From 4 to 6 on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102 FM. Your station for news and talk.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. Thanks again to all the candidates. I'm going to get a little misty-eyed as I say goodbye to our... Nah, I'm just kidding. It's been a lot. So I wanted to wrap up what will be our last show before Election Day. Tomorrow we'll be talking elections. We won't have any results to talk about, by the time our show ends at 6 p.m. It's going to take until about 9, 10 o'clock before we see any big tally dump from the county clerks in any of the races throughout the state. And again, I think a lot of them are probably going to be decided at that point. Margins will be large enough that there's no overcoming it for the number of votes left remaining in the tally. Others, I think, are going to be closer. And as I said at the start of the show, this United States Senate race, you just heard from Ally Isom and Becky Edwards, candidates in that race. I think that's one of them that could end up being very close. I don't think the 1st Congressional District race is going to be close. And then the Utah House 3 race, the race between incumbent Representative Mike Peterson and former Representative Val Potter, the challenger in that race. I think that one could end up being close to where we don't know tomorrow night. It takes a day or two or even a week before we know who won for sure. But otherwise, I think we'll have a good idea. I wanted to wrap up with this because we got this email from a listener, and it kind of stuck with me. And let me preface this by this because I know a lot of people who don't vote for personal reasons, for religious reasons, and I'm not talking about those people. The people I'm talking about here are the people who have become cynical. And this is not at all a point the finger, lay the blame kind of thing. But I guess in a way, kind of it is. So you hear this all the time, and it's a favorite thing of people to repeat. It's become just a bit of a mindless thing to say at times, but you hear it various ways, like it'll make a difference, or they're all the same. Regardless of who wins, they're all the same. But the thing is, if you really pay attention for 5 minutes, both of those assertions will be turned on their head. Races have been decided here in Utah, but even throughout every election cycle ever, races have been decided by 10 votes. There was actually a nomination race that was decided by 1 vote. And it was in Florida the last cycle. It did go to a recount and then a lawsuit and a second recount. But in the end, that race was decided by 1 person, 1 vote. So, yeah, it does matter, actually. This is a Republican primary, meaning this is all happening. These are Republican primaries. There are no Democratic primaries here in northern Utah. There are some in Weber County, Davis County, and in Salt Lake County. But here in Cache Valley, Box Elder County, Rich County, any of the races relevant to that area, there are no Democratic primaries. So this is all playing out on the Republican side of the aisle. Registered Republicans are the only ones who get to vote in the primary because Republicans close their primaries. And that further concentrates, I think, the impact of your vote, because it means there's a smaller pool of people. If we know that only, say, at most 40% of those eligible to vote are going to vote, and your pool of eligible voters is smaller already because it's just the registered members of one political party, not everybody, including unaffiliated voters, who still make up the largest voting bloc here in Utah. It's going to be a smaller pool of people in the first place. And then if you say, even if you're really generous and say 40% of registered voters, registered Republicans turn up in this election, you're further concentrating the power of your vote. So I would say your vote matters even more, actually, in a primary than in a general, because it's less watered down by other voters. But I just wanted to throw this out. I've linked to it on our Facebook page, but it's titled A Case Against the Cynics. And it's written by a man who, if you want to follow someone funny on Twitter and Instagram, he tweets and posts on Instagram under Stone Kettle. He is a former Marine, retired Marine, turned pundit. He, at one point, worked in campaigns. He's worked for nonprofits. He actually made a lot of money for some of his ideas on how to fundraise and how to store information for the campaign and retrieve it for quick voter access and things like that. He's been a successful guy all around, but he's cantankerous. He's just grumpy. And that's one of the reasons I follow him, because he makes me laugh, his takes on things. Anyway, he has written an article today, which he's not in Utah, so I don't think he really knew the timing of this would be perfect for Utah. But it was an article called The Case Against the Cynics, and he's writing as a cynic. And he's talking about the last few years, the last presidential election, the last president, the tumultuous time, going back in recent memory all the way to the people screaming at each other at tea parties in 2010, even though taxes hadn't gone up. I always have to point that out. It's just the politics has gotten weird. The anxiety's high, the anger's high. The candidates here in Utah, Tina Cannon told us this herself in the studio, and former Congressman Rob Bishop backed her up on this because he saw some of the threats. She actually has received death threats for being a Republican candidate in a congressional primary. She's received death threats from Utahns. It's bonkers out there. Banana pants for a lot of reasons. The fever will break. The brightest banana pants wearers are fewer than you'd think. They're just louder. And Stone Kettle, as he goes online, former Marine, has written the perfect anti-cynicism piece, making the case that it's these people that are trying to discourage you from voting. Don't let them win. That's his basic message. I'm going to put this on our Facebook page. It's a